Arizona State's coming to Washington. It's time for a crossover.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That guy down there this time is Lars Hanson. And with us today is Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils. It's going to be so much fun here. We've got a crossover going on. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 200 bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, wherever you're listening to this podcast. And so, Richie, welcome. I feel like we just kind of have to give you the first one as you know, I know this is a crossover, so this is going to be going out everywhere. But Washington is taking on Arizona State. Arizona State has taken the last two head-to-head matchups in this battle, and this might be the last one for a while. So what are your initial thoughts on this game?
My initial thoughts are Washington is the best team in the Pac-12. I took them to win the Pac-12 in the preseason. They have looked exactly like the team. Yes. Oh, dude, I'm like a pseudo Washington fan. When we're not playing you guys, I'm rooting you guys on. You're just
welcome.
Something about that program. I love the pieces. What Chris, oh my God, I did it again. What Chris Peterson did for that program got me really into it. And now what Kalen DeBoer is doing there with Michael Penix Jr., like, it's just been fun to watch. But this is a team that I respect more than any other team in the Pac-12. I think that just pound for pound, they're one of the best teams in the nation, let alone in the Pac-12. So for Arizona State, I don't know if I like our chances that much, but the history at least bodes well for us to make this a game. I don't know if I'm ready to get to that point, but maybe by the end of the podcast, I will.
Endearing yourselves to Washington fans right away. I love it. Lars, I know we had our Thursday show where we talked a lot about the keys to the game. With Richie here, is there anything like different when, you know, we had a nice conversation before about just some of the things that we're going to be looking for? What do you think is your number one thing in this game?
Yeah, well, I think, just to share Richie's sentiment, there's equal respect from Washington to Arizona State with Kenny Dillingham as the first-year head coach. Knowing, because I talked to co-defensive coordinator Chuck Morrell on Wednesday, and he just raved. And I think it's not coach speak, right? It's coach speak to a certain point, but everybody knows how good of an offensive mind Kenny Dillingham is, just as a play caller, schemer, not necessarily at the Ryan Grubb level, but certainly kind of, you know, within that tier of being right up there. The problem for Arizona State is they just haven't been able to stay healthy, and that's not Dillingham's fault. It's just kind of like, I mean, I'm doing a preview today that'll be going up on Inside the Huskies, or actually on Thursday. Yeah, today is Thursday.
Dates are hard sometimes.
Took me a second there, but when you just look at Arizona State, they're replacing so many injured guys at a number of positions. They don't have a starter at quarterback that's played all 6 games. So there's a lot that, if you're looking at it from a Washington fan, yeah, we should win this game easily. But then once you take a step back, it's like, well, hang on, they're still talented. They've come up to Seattle and made it close before. The quarterback that's likely going to be played a significant amount of snaps last year. So I think it's certainly a game to where, yes, the spread seems like this should be an easy Washington game, but these are always the games where it's like, yeah, they should be. And yet somehow the Pac-12 after dark, 7:30 kickoff, something's going to go sideways. Something's going to be interesting. And so it's just one of those classic Pac-12 after dark games.
I agree. The 7:30 kickoff is always just like something to think about, where you never know what's going to happen. For me, and it's something I also read about on Inside the Huskies, plug, just, you know, we throw those in wherever we possibly can, is I think that the biggest thing here is Washington's defense, where they struggled a little bit against Oregon, but were able a little bit, as, you know, being nice there. But it's something where, looking at Arizona State's offense, the biggest thing that stood out to me, and especially, at least on paper, is they're last in the Pac-12 in rushing yards per game. And that's something where the Huskies have had trouble defending the run. And I talked to cornerback Jabbar Muhammad on Tuesday, and he said one thing that this team has been doing all week is extra tackling drills, where they really need to make sure that they haven't been able to wrap up ball carriers. We talked about Bucky Irving and Jordan James just kind of doing whatever they wanted to in the run game. So if the Huskies can figure out how to tackle. And then because it's not like looking ahead or anything, because you can never do that, especially in the Pac-12. But this week against Arizona State and the next week against Stanford, you have 2 opportunities against, no offense, Richie, subpar offenses at best, to just kind of get right on the defensive side of the ball, where you can find a way to get after the quarterback, force turnovers, and just kind of say, all right, we figured everything out. And then in a couple of weeks, when you have to go down to USC and play against Caleb Williams, it's just, okay, now we feel a little bit good about, feel a little bit better about ourselves in the scheme. And, we feel a little bit more confident in our tackling ability, maybe our ability to get after the quarterback as well. And I think that starts this week.
I would agree. And the thing that's so frustrating with the Sun Devils run game this year is, like, they've got the talent. Cameron Scadaboo is one of the more talented running backs that the program has seen over the last handful of years. I call him the people's running back. He's just so much fun to watch. He can catch the ball. He runs really well. He moves a lot more fluid than you would think for somebody that was going up against Big Sky competition a year ago at Sacramento State. He's really just started to kind of flourish in his role with Arizona State. But part of the reason that he started to drop off is, the injuries to the offensive line has been so brutal, to the point where there was a point in time where I think they only had like 6, maybe 7 guys that were healthy. And you had to have a conversation of, like, do we have open tryouts simply to have bodies in the room? Because if someone goes down, what are we going to do at that point? That's where you were starting to get. And then 2 weeks ago during the Colorado game, Cameron Scadaboo was dealing with some food poisoning, so he wasn't 100%, and that impacted his production a little bit. You wonder for the Sun Devils if they're going to be able to start getting back on the right track, because Scadaboo is talented enough to be able to get them back to that point. The problem is the offensive line is still banged up. Kenny Dillingham said on Monday, we're getting 2 back, but we're losing 2. I know that Isaiah Glass is supposed to be back, our left tackle, but we're losing Bram Walden, who was our other offensive tackle. Joey Ramos is questionable. Sione Finau is not a lock to play the game. It's just really impacting everything. And the passing game, look, they're getting stuff figured out, but they're still a team that really relies on their yards after the catch to be able to do much. Trenton Bourguet looking to be the starter for this game, short of something unforeseeable happening to him. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. He can't throw it 50, 60 yards down the field. What he likes to do is take the opportunities to get the ball in his playmakers' hands and let them do their own thing. Elijah Badger, one of the best kept secrets in the Pac-12, has been one of the major benefactors of this. He gets the ball in a very high volume way, and his ability to create after the catch, after contact, he's special. He truly, truly is. And he's somebody that I would tell you guys to watch out for. He's going to find a way to make an impact in this game, if for no other reason than they're going to target him 10, 15 times. He's going to be the guy in the offense. If he's able to get something going, if Cameron Scadaboo is going to be able to get something going, the offense can be okay. I'm still not going to tell you it's going to be great. I don't even know if I would tell you it's going to be good. But that's pretty much where they're going to find their production, is number 2 and number 4. Number 2, Elijah Badger. Number 4, Cameron Scadaboo. They're going to be doing everything they can to get them involved. The offensive line is really going to be a big factor in this game, though, because if they can't find a way to run block and they can't find a way to keep Trenton Bourguet up, this game's over.
Lars, that's something you and I have talked about a lot, is Washington's pass rush just kind of needing a way to get right, especially with 2 really talented players on the edge in Braylon Trice and Zion Tupola-Fatui. Do you think that this just kind of has a chance to be that game?
Yes and no. Yes, because if we're going with that theory that this is a weak offensive line, but to Richie's point, Kenny Dillingham's going to get that ball out quick. They're going to have those quick passes and get the yards in space. And so that's going to, again, negate the ability for Washington to get sacks and get it. They'll get pass rushes, they'll get pressure. But again, it's the same thing like when you had against Oregon, where Bo's getting the ball out quick. If you're just able to get the ball out, sacks get taken away. And so I think that's going to be Kenny Dillingham's approach is, look, let's just get the ball to Elijah, get the ball to Cam, just get the ball out. No matter if it's a loss or a gain, just get the ball out. So we're at least moving the clock, getting those long drives, almost like what Arizona did against Washington, where you're on the field for nearly 7+ minutes and you're taking away a half of a game. That for Washington is 3 possessions, if not 4. So you're taking away 3 or 4 scoring drives. That's how you stay in the game if you're Arizona State.
Next on this Locked On crossover, we are going to be discussing something very fun. Is this a trap game for Washington with the spread where it is? We'll find out. But first, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. I'm personally somebody who has benefited a lot from therapy. I've had some, questions about career choices, just a whole lot of different things, and just going on in my life. And I feel like that's been something that's really, really helpful for me. It's really great at, helping, learning positive coping skills, setting boundaries. Really, it's anything that you think that you just kind of want to vent about or get off your shoulders in life. Therapy is a really great way to help you do that. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your own schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you're able to switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockdownCollege today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockdownCollege. And since we were talking about trap games and betting is usually very heavily involved in that. We have to shout out our friends over at FanDuel as well, because you can snap into the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you think about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockdownCollege and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Lars, is the UW betting line still at 27.5? Because I know that's where it opened. It's kind of fluctuated throughout the week.
Yeah, it's at 27.5, over under at 60.5. Also, I'm looking at some of these anytime touchdown scores, which I love. Did not realize FanDuel had that kicking. Yeah, but man, this is a lot. There's a lot to go on. But yeah, the line is stayed the same at 27.5.
Richie, what are your thoughts on the over under here?
27.5 is a lot, and ASU has done a really good job covering the spread this year. I think the biggest example is the USC game. I think it was like 34.5. We lost by 14. I like Arizona State to cover 27.5. I would not be surprised if they lost, but 27.5 is a lot, especially against a really underrated defense that we're going to talk about.
And speaking of that underrated defense, I think that's a really great place to start, because this offense is one of the best in the nation. So, Richie, what is it about Arizona State's defense that stands out to you?
It starts with Brian Ward. Your defensive coordinator came from Wazoo. You guys might be a little familiar with him. He is so smart, and the way he understands the intricacies of how to get the most out of his players is something that has absolutely blown me away. I was really high on the hire when it was initially announced, and it's only really proven to be that much of a great hire, as you have seen through the first 6 weeks of the year. Last season, Arizona State over 12 games had a whopping 17 sacks. Through 6 games this year, they already have 18. He has completely changed the culture when it comes to the pass rush. The only thing they're missing right now is turnovers. They have a single turnover this year, and it was a miscommunicated snap between Marshawn Lloyd and Caleb Williams that fell on the ground, and ASU fell on it. They are not generating turnovers, and this is not an offense that is going to throw or commit a lot of turnovers. So I question whether or not they're going to be able to get that job done. What I don't question is their ability to collapse the pocket, make things uncomfortable for Michael Penix Jr., and see if they can throw him off his rhythm a little bit. Will that happen? Probably not, but it gives me that hope that they possibly can do that. They've got a lot of really good pass rushers on this team. Prince Dorbah, a transfer from Texas, has been one of the, not to use this term again like I did with Elijah Badger, but he's one of the best kept secrets in the Pac-12. He has 6 sacks on the year. It's the most in a single season the Sun Devils have had since 2019. He has been so hyper productive for this team, and he's coming in like a not like a substitute role, but like they do a pass rush by committee. They've got him. They've got BJ Green, another very good pass rusher for the team. They've got Clayton Smith. They got Michael Matus. There's bodies here that they're rotating through to keep everyone fresh, and Prince Dorbah is making the most out of his opportunities. So if they can find a way to get these pass rushers going, I really like their chances to be able to make this a little bit of a game. They're a very talented defense, and they're very opportunistic when it comes to getting into the backfield. Again, you haven't had the turnovers. That could be a big factor in this game. But a lot of people look at the box scores and see that the Sun Devils are, in the bottom half in points per game. They are at 28.3 points per game. A lot of that has to do with how often they're on the field, because the offense is so inefficient, to put it politely, that they're leaving the defense out there to dry. They get exhausted, they get fatigued, and you can only do so much. But you look at their total yards per game, top 6. You look at their passing yards per game, top 4. You look at the rushing yards per game, top 6. Like, they are doing such a good job limiting opponent offenses to what they could possibly do. So if Arizona State can find a way to move the ball on offense, they're going to be able to keep this game close because of the defense. I truly believe in this defense, if for no other reason than Brian Ward is just so smart and knows what he's doing when it comes to calling plays and getting guys in the best positions to succeed. And you hope that some of his experience playing, in state Washington while he was at Washington State maybe plays into it. I don't know how much I believe in that, but I do believe in this defense to find a way to step up against one of the best offenses in the Pac-12.
Lars, how would you counter with that?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't counter. I would agree with it. I mean, if you go back and look at, sorry about that. If you go back and look at the Apple Cup last season, in the first half, Washington and Michael Penix struggled. I mean, in comparison to what they usually do. Let me caveat it with that, because Penix was a little bit off. And I think certainly when you look at the talent that Washington State had last season in the Apple Cup last year and the front seven that Arizona State has, I think you take Arizona State's front seven. So this is a tougher task than what Penix faced against Brian Ward at Washington State last year. So I think it's certainly a game to where, especially the key for Washington is, and for Arizona State on defense, is not necessarily having that edge rusher pressure, but maybe sometimes putting one of those guys inside or stunting and having him come up the middle, because that's where Washington's weakness has been this season, is the interior part of the offensive line. Roger Rosengard and Troy Fautano, they're two studs. They're going to the NFL. There's not an issue there. But where Arizona State can have success is still getting pressure up the middle and maybe switching guys around and doing things like that, because I certainly think there is pressure to be had. To your point, BJ Green leads the Pac-12 in pressures, more than Leatu. Roman, I got that right. Took me like 10 years, but I finally got that name right. But the fact that if I were to tell you off the cuff who has the most pressures in the Pac-12, you're going a long way down before mentioning anybody on Arizona State. To Richie's point, it's a best kept secret. And so I think this is kind of one of those games where I don't want to say it's a trap game, because I think, that the connotation of respect and disrespect in that, because if, again, we go back and look at the games since 2016, they've all been one possession. Up until 2016, they've been one possession. So it's hard to say that it's a trap game. It's more or less like a, hey, don't slip this game. It's not, I don't truly want to say it's a trap game, because Cal was more of a trap game. Yes.
So the one thing that I kind of wanted to say on the matter, because you're right, there is still like an opportunity to get pressure on the interior Washington's offensive line, Lars. But I just kind of want to play devil's advocate a little bit and talk about how Washington's offense looked really, really good against a strong Oregon pass rush. Lars, you and I both talked to offensive line coach Scott Huff on Wednesday, and one of the things that he mentioned was the fact that there were a lot of things that Oregon's defense showed them that they didn't put on film. There were a lot of really unique pressures, and I went back and watched the game on Sunday just because I wanted to kind of see it, because I was like, oh, Washington's offensive line is doing a really good job. And Richie, Oregon fans were in our comments over on Locked On Huskies all week, just telling us, oh, you guys are discrediting this Oregon defense. They're going to be able to do whatever they want. And that, didn't really happen. But that was something that I was really interested in seeing. And redshirt freshman center Parker Brailsford has been excellent all season long. But there were still times that Oregon was able to get pressure over the guards, especially over right guard. So that's something that I'm going to be really watching, just to kind of see how Arizona State's defense can take advantage of that. But at the same time, I think that Washington's offensive line has continued to just get stronger as the season goes along. So I think that there's a really good opportunity for Michael Penix to just be protected, because we have to remember this Husky offensive line has only given up 4 sacks this season. So they're still a really, really strong group. And I just think that it's worthy of noting that of the other side in this argument, because there is an opportunity, especially with, the late game, as we said earlier, with such a large point spread, that there is a chance for this to be a trap game. But I just wanted to make sure that the other side of this was taken as well. And we're going to get to our keys to the game here on this Locked On crossover in just a second. But first, we're going to take a second and chat about our friends over at Birddogs. And personally, I love wearing my Birddogs. I wear them to, a press conference or a practice once a week because I feel so comfortable in them. And one of the best things about them is they make you look good. Birddogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. And they fit way better than regular shorts that are made of just that stiff, restricting cotton. And I just love that they use the anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day, especially, when it gets hot. That's something that nobody likes that. And Birddogs are also functional for any occasion, whether it's a golf, a date, an evening out, just going to the pool, working out, lounging around, or going to work. You can wear them anytime, anywhere. And, do you want to get a pair for yourself? Because, after hearing that, I know I would. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege or enter promo code LockedOnCollege at checkout for a free Birddogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. All right. Keys to the game. We're flying right through here. We're having a great time. Lars, let's start with you. We started with Richie this whole time. We're gonna switch up the order here a little bit. Lars, I know we had a nice conversation about this on Thursday, but is there anything else that you just kind of wanted to hit on that might be just a key to this game against the Sun Devils?
So I think I'm going to double down on what I said. I don't know if I said it earlier this week, but against what I said against Arizona, where if Arizona State is able to possess the ball, and to Richie's point, I'm looking at the time of possession. Washington and Arizona State rank 6th and 7th in the conference in time of possession on offense. So if Arizona State is able to stay on the field and tilt that a little bit more in their favor, that's how this becomes a game. Because if Washington is able to get out, like we saw against Cal, 45-10 at halftime, I have a hard time seeing Washington stumble again at home in the second half, even with their reserves in. So I think if Arizona State is able to keep possession of the ball in the first half and make it a 10-point, 17-point game at halftime, that's how this game gets really interesting, because then in the second half, once everything goes dark, that's when it's going to start to get interesting, and when you get a 4-quarter game. So I think, because if it's not a game by halftime, I have a hard time seeing Arizona State mount a comeback. No disrespect, but I just think it's more or less like that. That's the key that I'm looking at, is can Arizona State make it close at halftime? Because if you can, then you got 30 minutes to make it interesting, and that's what we've seen in this game over the past few years.
Richie, what about you?
No, first of all, no disrespect. Totally agree with you. This is an offense that really struggles to get going. If you find yourself down 2 possessions in the first quarter, you can write it off. They got to find a way to be able to slug it out with them. For Washington's key to victory, I think it's going to be trying to find a way to neutralize the pass rush for Arizona State. To your guys' credit, like you said, you're not giving up very many sacks this year. The offensive line has played well. Michael Penix Jr. is just so transcendent. There's a reason why he is the current betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. There's so many good things that are going into this offense, and part of that has been being able to protect him and keep him upright. The Sun Devils have a really good pass rush, a really, really good pass rush, and they're doing it with so many different guys. And if they're able to do the stunts, like you mentioned, and they've got some good defensive tackles as well. CJ Fight is one of my absolute favorite guys, a freshman. He's doing a good job when he gets his opportunities. Deshaun Mallory, the graduate transfer from Michigan State, has been a stud. And if they find a way to be able to create the pressure from the interior, there's a chance that they may be able to get after Michael Penix Jr., hopefully for 1 sack. I would love to be able to double what he's had on the year, but that's not overly realistic. For Washington to win this game offensively, they just got to be able to find a way to get rid of Arizona State's pass rush. And I don't know if that becomes the 2-second offense where you're just getting the ball out as quickly as you can. I don't know if that means running the ball more. Whatever it ends up being, they just need to find a way to stop Prince Dorvaugh, to stop BJ Green, and whoever else is going to be coming after the quarterback.
So I like those a lot because mine also just had something to do with getting the ball out quickly because I'm really curious to see what Washington's health is like at the wide receiver position in this game. Because Jalen McMillan and Jeremy Bernard, I think it's fair to say they're both questionable for this game. McMillan had to leave the Oregon game really early on after re-aggravating his knee injury that he suffered at Michigan State. And then Jeremy Bernard looked like Ryan Grubb said that there was an ankle injury that he suffered later on in the Oregon game. He did return for a little bit, but Grubb did say that he wasn't moving around very well on their lift on Sunday. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Lars and I talked about that a little bit earlier on in the week. And so my question is, what does the offense really look like for Washington? Because we know they want to throw the ball all over the yard. And Dylan Johnson has just continued to assert himself as this team's number one running back, where he's had 36 carries over this team's last 2 games. And excluding sacks, the rest of the team has had 10. And he's just a really strong SEC back where he keeps getting better week in and week out, where he's just running guys over at this point and just looks awesome. So my question is, what is Ryan Grubb's plan on the offensive side of the ball? Is it we're still going to throw first, even though they might be down a couple of receivers? Or is it going to be, okay, we're going to establish the run early on, which we kind of see them try to do earlier on in the season, and then just kind of play off of it from there. So I think that's going to be the number one thing that I'm looking out for personally.
Yeah, I mean, Richie, go ahead. Richie, go ahead. Richie, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're good. I just feel like if you're not going to be able to find a way to keep up with this Washington offense, I don't know how Arizona State wins this game, because even if you're missing some of your weapons, Roman, I texted you this. Lars, I'm going to throw this at you too. Rome Odunze is one of the best receivers in the country. He is my pick for the Biletnikoff Award. I have my own nickname for him. Would love to share it with you guys on this podcast too.
Please do.
It's
him,
great. Yeah, I call him Doomsday. Like this is the guy who's going to absolutely wreak havoc. It's kind of a play on a Doomsday. I don't know. I loved it.
It's beautiful. It's perfect.
I let our friend know on Locked On Pac-12, Spencer McLaughlin, before the season. I was like, what do you think of this? And he was like, it's pretty good. And so I was really looking forward to being able to share that with you guys. This to me is the biggest X factor for the game. If the Sun Devils can't find a way to stop him, that he's going to single-handedly beat Arizona State. He had a huge game against us last year. I don't see any reason why he can't do it again this year. Dude's a beast. Dude's an absolute beast. He's a Biletnikoff Award finalist at an absolute worst. For the draft fans, this is a first-round pick. He's a monster. I don't know what Arizona State's game plan is, but it needs to center around him.
So, Richie, we do whenever we do our keys to the game over on Locked On Huskies, we always make bold predictions, especially because I'm a jinx. And if I ever try to predict the score, it goes just like 180 degrees in the opposite direction, like every single time without fail. So one of my bold predictions this week was Rome Odunze is going to have 150 yards and 2+ touchdowns. So I just want to let you know that's out there from my predictions. Lars, what else do you think the Huskies need, or the Sun Devils need to do in this game?
See, I think if you're Washington, I was kind of stick. How does Washington win this game? Right, it's a matter of, can the defense take that next step, right? Just as a unit, right? Because yes, you can force 3 and outs, but if you don't really take the air out of the game, and we saw against Cal, right, where you get Eddie Von Ulufashio gets a pick 6 early in the game and sets the tone. They haven't really had that outside of that game. I mean, you could say Michigan State with the Zion sack and fumble that wasn't called. Those are really the only 2 games this defense is taking control of a game early and allowed the offense to cook for 4 quarters. So I think if Arizona State is in any way able to protect the ball and just again, like I'm kind of extending on what I said earlier, where it's just don't beat yourself. You know, you're not going to win every drive. And I mean, we've seen at times Washington's not going to win every drive. I mean, they went 3 and out twice against Oregon. So part of it is, can Ryan Grubb not necessarily get out of his own way, because Roman and I both love Ryan Grubb and just how he is as a person, things like that. But Grubb has been able to kind of get in his own way at times. And so if Arizona State can capitalize on that and force some mistakes, force it to be a close game, I do think there's a chance to at least to Richie's point, to cover the 27-point spread, because that is a high spread. But then also I also can see Washington covering if they're able to just get out to a 27-28 7 lead early because I don't think they're going to relinquish that.
Richard, what do you think?
I think that there's going to be some ups and downs in this game. I really do like our defense. And the problem is you're just going up against such a dynamic offense that's got so many different ways that they can beat you. And I don't know if Arizona State is capable of hanging in there with them, not from a talent standpoint, not from a scheme standpoint, but simply because this is such a great offense throughout the nation. I mean, they're going toe for toe with like the LSUs and, oh man, the Michigans of the world. Like some of the best offenses in the nation, Florida State, like Washington is right up there with them. Arizona State's going to need to play absolutely out of their mind if they plan to stay in this game. The one thing they've got going for them is Trenton Bourguet really does a good job facilitating the game and getting the ball to his weapons. And Elijah Badger is a really good player. We're waiting for Jalen Conyers, our tight end, to break out. Xavier Guillory has been inconsistent week to week. Scadaboo is obviously someone who can be really big. If they're able to find a way to get extra drives, and that's not necessarily turnovers. When I say extra drives, like the 3 and outs that you guys mentioned, if you can find a way to get Washington's offense off the field and then get the ball down the field, and field goals aren't going to win this game. You're going to need to score touchdowns. But if they can find a way to go stride for stride in the sense of like never letting it get more than a 2-possession game, they can make this interesting. I still don't see Arizona State winning this game. I know the history helps us out. I know last year we pulled it out. I just don't know if you capture lightning in a bottle twice. But if they're going to be in this game, like you said, they just need to capitalize on their opportunities on offense. You can't stall out consistently. You can have the 3 and outs. You can have the punts. It's going to happen for both teams. But if you're consistently doing it the way that the Sun Devils offense has done that at times this year, it's going to be a lot of trouble. The one thing they've got going for him is, you guys mentioned Kenny Dillingham and his offense. I'm going to tell you guys right now, expect the unexpected. During the USC game, I remember sitting in the booth and I was talking to some of the other guys around me, and they were doing so many crazy things. They were going for it on 4th down. They had Cameron Scadaboo in we call it the Sparky package, because we will not call it the Wildcat, because we do not like U of A. So we have him in the Sparky package.
Respect.
He does pooch punts. He throws the football to the quarterbacks. Like, they're going to do a little bit of everything. And I remember talking to them. I'm like, how do you even like adjust to this? Because they're so unorthodox. So I'm telling you right now, if Arizona State's planning to win this game, they're going to do a lot of things that you are not going to know what to do with. You're going to see Cameron Scadaboo line up in the backfield, and you're going to be like, is this guy about to throw it? Is he going to run it? Is he going to pooch punt it? There's all sorts of different things they're going to do. And that's what they're going to need to do here. You can't pull your punches if you're the Sun Devils, and you can't play orthodox football. The exact opposite. Find a way to move the football. Find a way to absolutely confuse the Huskies defense. That's the way that the Sun Devils win this game. The Huskies, you just got to be ready for the unexpected.
Absolutely. I like that. I think that's a great note to end on. Richie, thank you for joining me and Lars here today. This has been awesome. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Richie over on Locked On Sun Devils. And hey, maybe shoot us a follow over here at Locked On Huskies too. Best way to do that is just wherever you get this podcast, feel free to just slap that subscribe button. That's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We are there. We are everywhere. We really appreciate everybody's listening. Make sure you like the video, leave a 5-star review, leave us a comment. We'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you after the game.